Russia, the world's largest country and a political powerhouse. A land with famous metropoles, stunning vistas, and diverse peoples. Yet its cuisine has made small international impact. In this episode of Food Unknown, I'll explore the history of Russian food from the city of the Tsars to the mighty Caucasus Mountains. Along the way, I'll discover how an extremely unique past has influenced their dishes in ways you might not expect. I'll connect with chefs, winemakers, and entrepreneurs who are unearthing golden opportunities in the face of strict economic sanctions. It's a journey full of twists, turns, adventure, and grub for days. Bring your appetite, bundle up, and be prepared to speak. Like, a lot. If the authorities don't hold you down, the spread will on this Food Unknown. Our world is full of fascinating dishes, culturally important, rich in stories. But only a few have seen the limelight. I'm Jonathan Legg, and in this series, I'm focusing my travels around the world's most underappreciated cuisines.
Oh my God.
Have they failed to market? Are they about to emerge? Or are they just plain bad? It will be a global journey of pleasant surprises, dangerous mishaps, and stunning locations. On a quest to uncover Food Unknown. I arrive in Moscow, gray and frigid in November. With little idea of where to start, I simply hit the pavement, looking to get some quick perspective on the food scene, ducking into cafes for warm drinks.
Surprisingly, Russia has one of the most flavorful hot beverages in the world, made not from tea, but berries and occasionally other flavors like lemongrass and honey. In fact, it's called the non-tea tea. When you think Russia, you think vodka, but actually locals drink more of this.
When the cold gets too fierce, I jump into the local subway, one of the longest, deepest, and prettiest in the world. Each station has its own ambiance, often painstakingly designed.
Like the futuristic Mayakovskaya, used as a bomb shelter during World War II.
Komsomolskaya Station has the system's most opulent design, with massive chandeliers. And Novoslobodskaya is known for its sublime stained glass. Eventually, the subway takes me to White Rabbit, one of Moscow's most buzzed about restaurants. Gotta start somewhere. May as well start at the top. Located high above the city, this restaurant grabs your attention right away with its views and ambiance. The Alice in Wonderland tinged atmosphere is just topped by the 360-degree views of Moscow. I've arrived early to meet Chef Vladimir Mukin, a pioneer of modern Russian cuisine. The chef starts me off with the basic building blocks. Bread infused with birch bark, inspired from grain-starved regions of Siberia. Once considered an emergency ration, Vladimir has turned it into a delicacy.
Are all the ingredients today, are they all from Russia?
All, of course.
So everything is locally sourced?
Of course, yes. Because unfortunately we have embargo now, but we try to, but it is help our farmers, our cooks, all start to cook Russian food.
Chef also mixes up a unique side of herrings, potatoes, eggs, and butter.
It's a lot of butter.
Yeah.
I like your style.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. And mixed for good balance of a taste, I put inside apple. But apple I cut because we need some texture inside. Yeah. You want to try it?
Absolutely.
Yes. First of all, I give you just a little bit bread with this kind of butter because it's really interesting.
Start with the basics.
Yeah, yeah. Yes. Yes, it's
A little bit of bitterness.
interesting. Yes.
Not an explosion of
Yeah.
flavor. It's rather calm.
Yeah. Yes, and one more for you with herring.
With herring, okay.
Herring, yes.
Now this one's got something
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah. Thanks.
Chef Vladimir then whips me up one of his best sellers, a dish I would never consider for lunch.
How perfect is this? Porridge with a wooden spoon. Now, usually when I think porridge, I think, something Oliver Twist you'd eat in the orphanage because you didn't have money for anything else, but something tells me. Oh yeah. Wow. There's a little something sweet in there. The grouse is obviously giving it a little bit of a meaty taste. You do have that texture of the porridge, but it's a flavor unlike anything I've had before. You're familiar with Italian, you're familiar with Mexican and Thai, but this unique old school Russian cooking with the new twist, you can't exactly put your finger on it. It's a completely new taste sensation, but it's filling, feels robust, yet it tastes completely healthy.
My Russian culinary experience has started off with a promising bang. Unfamiliar yet tasty dishes with a killer view of the city. But will this represent the rest of my food adventure, or was it an exception? I'll soon find out. For the moment, I'm curious about this magnificent building across the street. Look at that.
The rumor is that right after the war, Stalin was complaining to one of his advisors that now that we've won, people from all over the world are going to come to Moscow. We have no skyscrapers. What will they think of us? So it was very important for him to put a lot of energy into creating these symbols of the nation's rising power.
Now, some of these buildings are hotels, some are government buildings, and one is a university. They don't like my camera much. This one is residential, so let's just try to walk through the door.
It's one heavy door. In the building. Thousands of political prisoners were used to make these buildings, including some German POWs. So many resources were diverted to make these structures that the... Hold on. Привет. Hey, oh, you speak English?
Yeah.
Do you have a window?
Yeah.
You have a balcony?
Yeah.
Sometimes in travel, you gotta be a little bold. This guy turns out to be super friendly. We instantly connect, and my congeniality is rewarded.
Is this building was a government building or?
No, it was built for scientists, for artists, for cultural people. So it's not special for
Are
government.
you a scientist?
No, I'm a cook.
You're a cultural guy.
I'm chef cook.
A chef cook. Oh wow.
Maybe sometimes you join us to private dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
Sure,
love
why
to.
not?
That would be fantastic. I'll bring some wine.
Score!
Nice.
While I wait for my new dinner plans to come together, I make my way over to a unique project happening in the heart of the city.
Marcus Aurelius, the Roman master of Stoicism, said that the obstacle in the way is the way. This is a relevant concept here in Moscow at Mobius, which is a food startup accelerator. In the face of tough economic sanctions, they're bringing homegrown products to the market.
Inside the building, there's a little bit of tech going on. Or would this be industry or science? Anyhow, the real interests are the chefs and entrepreneurs inside the facility who are honing their products for market. Like these guys, making churros specifically for a Russian audience.
Oh yeah.
Traditional churros made for the Russian market, which is currently very health conscious, so that are made smaller and with healthier ingredients. They like their dipping sauce here, so I believe we got vanilla, but you can also get chocolate or hazelnut. And Russians kind of have a thing about cleanliness, which is great, including keeping their hands clean. So you would eat this with a fork. Wow, you guys are onto something. Awesome. This may be the best churro I've ever had. And I don't feel that bad about eating it. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Or this lady making serniki, a traditional kind of Russian cupcake adjusted for the trending, health-conscious Muscovites, with raisins, granola, and honey. So this is your variation on the traditional Russian cheesecake, but it's baked, it has no butter and no flour.
Right.
How is that possible?
Try.
Oh, wow. That's freaking fantastic.
I knew that.
There's real no butter in this. Fess up.
No, it is
Really?
it's rather low fat.
But it's Mariana Orlinkova, food writer and chef, who drops the real wisdom on me. Let's talk a little bit about Russian cuisine while we're doing this. Everybody in the world knows Mexican food, everybody knows Indian food. Russia, largest country in the world, and I don't know anybody outside of Russian, except for Russians, who go eat in a Russian restaurant. Why is that?
Well, everybody knows vodka, caviar, and most probably blini or something like that, right? Or beef stroganoff.
I've
Yeah, that's it.
had some
That's
vodka
it.
now and then.
Well, the problem is that Russian cuisine is not even popular in Russia. Russian cuisine is all about Russian oven. We don't have Russian ovens anymore. You cannot build it in your 54 stories house in Moscow or anywhere else.
Right.
And the house was built around the oven.
Right.
It's for heating, for cooking, for even taking bath in it.
So you lost the traditions, you lost the momentum that made Russian cuisine what it was.
That's true.
But now you're part of the movement to reclaim that.
Well, we are trying to do something that modern people understand, like what their palate likes. Because if we start cooking as our great grandfathers did, they won't accept it. So some of the things are done, we're doing it perfectly for the modern palate.
I gotcha. Tapping into a little bit of those traditional dishes, but putting a modern spin on them. Mariana cooks up a crazy good version of traditional Russian porridge, starting with the world's most old school grain, emmer. This is the basic foundation of the dish, and it's been around a long time.
Like at least for 500 years.
500 years. So I'm taking a scoop into history. All right. Tastes healthy and hearty. Got a nice texture to it. Now, as I understand, going forward in time to the modern era, people are putting some sweet variations on this.
Yeah, you can try one of the free stuff that we have. This is chocolate and hazelnuts. This is just strawberry with some lemon juice and a little bit of sugar. And this is caramelized stewed onion, apples with butter, cinnamon, and honey.
Caramelized apples with butter, cinnamon, and honey. Ding, ding, ding. That's the winner. Try a little bit. A little nibber nabber of that. Okay.
This goes better for the modern person, right?
This will be a fantastic meal on the go. Gulp it down as you're heading to work. You're set till lunchtime. It's fantastic. From the business center, I head over to Moscow's first market bistro, full of all kinds of produce, meat, spices, and other curiosities. And this is a sheep. Here, Mobius maintains a slick space where their entrepreneurs can get direct feedback from customers. There I meet Valeria, who's created a do-it-yourself cheese box.
This box has everything I need to make 2 kinds of cheese.
Yeah, mozzarella and ricotta, everything is in here except for the milk. The milk we bought separately.
All right.
And it turns out to be a piece of cake. Following the cutesy instructions, we heat some milk, add some citric acid, and before you can say mozzarella, it comes to fruition.
How does a girl from Moscow make mozzarella cheese?
Well, it was quite a long path, and I worked in finance. I hated it, and then the sanctions hit, and I just decided to make some project that will be fun and that will allow to make homemade cheese, because we don't have that much cheese now in the supermarket.
Right.
So that's it.
You found the silver lining.
Yeah. So we've waited for about 15 minutes, and now we have a nice firm curd which was formed in these 15 minutes, and now we are going to cut it in cubes. So I'm going to do it like this.
When it gets firm enough, the aspiring cheese is cut and then
Perfect.
stretched.
Out here on the streets of Moscow, we stretching that mozzarella.
Now just form a ball
All right. Boom.
and put it in the way.
I feel so proud of myself.
Yay.
Thank you.
Later at the booth, I meet one of Mobius's partners, who's launching into a booming Russian market: mayonnaise.
I've heard Russians eat more mayonnaise per capita than anyone else on the planet.
Actually, yeah, it's true, but not many people know why, because when you and I were kids, the only sauce Russians had was mayonnaise. Well, that time it was Soviet Union, so no other sauces available. So people used to cook with it, live with it, wash with it, just do everything with it.
That was the sauce.
That was the only commercially, well, one of probably 3 or 4. But so yeah, so Russians now, they eat 8 kilos of mayonnaise. You guys eat 2 kilos of mayonnaise, so 4 times more.
That's got to lead me to the question: if mayonnaise is so copiously consumed here, it must be a huge market. Why do you want to jump into it?
The project that we're doing is we're making kind of a luxury mayonnaise, even though I don't like saying luxury, but it's more to the real kind of a niche mayonnaise, which has all fresh ingredients as opposed to commercial blends, and tons more flavor to me as a chef.
Luxury mayonnaise.
It is indeed, yeah.
Is it like the Grey Poupon of mayonnaise?
I would imagine so, yeah.
As Andre whips up his deluxe mayo, I ask him the burning question.
On this trip throughout Russia, I've been talking to a lot of people about the lack of popularity in Russian cuisine, and people refer to a revitalization. They say we lost it and we're getting it back, and that the sanctions have something to do with that.
Well, it's actually, I mean, if you look at the history of, or for the whole of the last century, Russians have been preoccupied with different things. And in my view, what happened with Soviet Union didn't help either, because those days people were more concerned with feeding the mass as opposed to keeping hold of their traditions. And plus, you know, traditions were sort of considered not good, so if you know what I mean. It's got definitely something to do with sanctions, but now we have to get back. A lot of things have been lost. It's like when you lose your tradition, when you lose your knowledge, it takes you twice the time and effort to get it back.
Right.
So now we need more energy, more sort of be even more entrepreneurial to get it back.
Right.
And a lot of people which we see here, they're trying to do it.
With the mayo done, Andre and I take a spin around the market to see what we can do with it, and we come up with a brilliant idea.
So here's a sandwich with our potted crab and herb-infused mayonnaise.
Potted crab, herb-infused mayonnaise.
Enjoy.
Long time coming. Let's see if it came together. Nice firm bread, crispy lettuce. Crab, of course, who doesn't like Alaskan king crab? But it is that zesty mayonnaise that really gives it the punch, brings it all together. Russia's most loved sauce, but now done in a real special way. From Russia, with love.
After the restaurant, the incubator, and the market, I'm starting to get a grip on the Russian food situation. One as unique and complex as the country's entire recent history.
Russian grub was split into two camps. The cuisine of the czars and the high class, which migrated in from Europe, and the food of the peasants, which was cooked in these huge Russian ovens.
Then came the October Revolution.
Lenin changed everything. It was sort of an industrial revolution. Poor people moving into the city, farm to factory. Rich people, the aristocracy, the one percenters, if you will, well, they kind of disappeared. The poor moved into buildings like these kommunalkas. Now hot property in Moscow, but back in the day, several families jammed into a small apartment with an itsy-bitsy kitchen. Gone were the rich and the food of their empire, and now gone was the Russian oven, which created the food of the peasants. To discover this country's real food, I need to leap over this historic gap and connect to these two interrupted branches of Russian cuisine.
This new mission will take me all over the Russia of today, from the old seat of the empire to the culturally diverse South and back into the powerhouse capital. But before I go looking for pre-Lenin food, I'll go check out the post-Lenin Grub. This obscure, no-frills joint serves it up just like it was in Khrushchev's day. Communist cuisine. You queue up, get your simple dish, eat at the communal stand-up tables, wash up at the communal sinks, and peace out.
Restaurant only serves one thing, this deep-fried, meat-filled pastry, chebrurek, which I can't pronounce very well. You know, on one hand, this one choice, one thing you get thing in Soviet times seems terrible. No choice. But to be honest, when I go into a restaurant, open up the menu, and there's 200 things, for me, that's terrible. I don't know what to choose, where to start. There's something nice about the simplicity of you get what we serve. I'll take it.
Does it taste great? Well, it filled me up. And obviously they have an abundant clientele. Moreover, this place is a slice at a time, and that's pretty cool. To chase the food of the old Russian Empire, I take a gander up north to the headquarters of the old Tsars, St. Petersburg. On the way, I stop at the fantastic Hermitage Museum, one of the world's absolute can't-miss best. Brilliant in its design and chock full of amazing art.
Here's something interesting you could walk right by. This depicts workers maintaining the structure of the museum during the 900-day siege when the Nazis surrounded the city of Leningrad.
The siege on the city left residents destitute, except for one robust survivor.
Faced with starvation, after a short period of time, almost every living creature in the city was consumed, including the cats. The only thing that survived were rats, and there were so many of them. Survivors said it was like a brown moving carpet on the streets of the city. So when it all ended, as an act of patriotism, Russians from around the country donated their cats to St. Petersburg to eradicate that problem. It was a second wave of felines, both for the city and for this palace.
And where are these cats? Chilling in the basement. Deep below the Hermitage, I meet Maria Kaltunen, the museum's press secretary and a dedicated feline advocate.
So cute. Maria, why are there so many cats in these catacombs?
Well, because we need them. Because in every museum we need cats, I think. Because rats and mice are very interested in objects of art.
Maria takes me on a tour of the catacombs, which extend under the entire palace, full of felines, who, honestly, ain't working all that hard.
The rats can smell the presence of these cats.
Of course, and they prefer not to come to the museum, to their basement.
They don't even have to kill them, they just don't show up.
Yeah, there is no necessity to kill. There is necessity just to be here, that's all.
I bid adieu to the fabulous palace and its languid felines. It's time to eat. Coco grabs you right away with its cozy, compact design. On the front counter of the restaurant, a distinctive feature: herbs carefully selected by experts with shamanic knowledge.
This is meadowsweet, right? This has been used for a long time to treat all kinds of things, including cancer. I think most of that's been debunked, but it's still used today as a digestive, and I guess it tastes good, right? Vanilla taste. Yeah. Subtle, but I feel it. Oh. That's great.
With my guts properly settled, I'm ready for their unique food, which is touted as organic and locally sourced. Like cod, fried with bacon and burned cabbage, and multi-layered creations, like this dish, with anchovies, poached egg, cottage cheese, sunflower seeds, and crispy layers, created with egg white and squid ink. The meticulous choice of ingredients shines through in the completed dishes, packing in more flavor than I expected.
Whoa. It's like the best of the land and the best of the sea. Bacon and cod meat. Basically the Russian surf and turf. But what really makes it is the cabbage drip on top. You know, in the West, we sleep on cabbage because it's not fancy, nothing spectacular. But it doesn't overpower the flavor, instead it rounds it out. This is something to try.
The food at Coco was fantastic, but it was also very avant-garde. I don't think I quite found my link back to the Tsars. In fact, to do that, I traveled back to the new seat of Russian power, Moscow. Here, just steps away from the Red Square, is the phenomenally popular Dr. Zhivago. Just 1 year old, this restaurant combines reasonable prices with bright design and a hell of a good location. Open 24/7. The restaurant served 1,400 guests in the 12 hours before I arrived. Doing that requires a pro staff and a kitchen which runs like a well-oiled machine. Chef Maxim Tarusin takes me back for a quick look before I eat. The kitchen is like a labyrinth, buzzing with activity. Imagine, this goes on 24 hours a day, yet it's remarkably clean. 56 cooks work here on 2 shifts. But I'm a lucky duck. Chef Maxine himself begins to whip up my dishes, starting with a Russian salad, which is technically an Olivier salad, named after the Belgian-born Lucien Olivier, who invented the dish in 1860 during the era of Tsar Alexander II. In the mix, egg, pickle, mayo, potatoes, capers, boiled beef tongue, quail, and crayfish, some caviar, and a little chicken gelatin on top. The chef also creates the Soviet interpretation of the dish. Tightening the purse strings, you've got carrots replacing crayfish and sausage replacing the beef tongue. The expensive caviar on top vanishes.
The imperial version and the communist copy of it, which is slightly inferior but more economical. Now, originally, the chef served all these ingredients separate on the plate, blah, 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 even the mayonnaise. And he was infuriated when the Russian court started mixing them together with the mayonnaise, but it stuck to his chagrin, and mayonnaise has been a big hit ever since then. I feel like a czar. That is great. Caviar. Fancy. This is kotleta, but a really modern, awesome interpretation of it. Originally Soviet food. Why is that? A whole cut of meat was very costly. Instead, you had minced meat mixed with onions and bread to kind of fill it up and economize it, all compressed together. Who knows what meat was in the old one, but what is in this is fantastic. I think we've got wild boar, we've got beef, crab, chicken. It's a king's feast.
The pilmeni crossed over from Chinese dumplings, which came to the east.
The Siberian hunters and foragers, as you could imagine, found this dish very convenient because they could freeze it, throw it in a sack, carry it with them, and all they had to do was set a pot of water boiling, throw it in, and they've got a meal. Nutrition on the go.
After lunch, I have a quick sit down with Chef Maxim to get his take on Russian cuisine.
This seems like a difficult question. In a nutshell, what is Russian cuisine?
We like when lots dishes. It's like pleasure on heart. Welcome. It's called welcome.
Okay, it's from the heart and it's welcoming.
Welcome. That's it. And lots of dishes. And tasting. And tasting.
Right. I like that. Heartfelt.
Yeah.
That's a good word. I've been searching for a word to describe Russian food.
Yeah.
It's not the spiciest, it's not the most extravagant, but it is heartfelt.
Yeah.
And I tasted that in your food today.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Chef. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Finally, at Dr. Zhivago, I've sampled what would be the best interpretation of Russia's empirical cuisine. Definitely a spread fit for a czar. Now that I've found my link to the empirical food, I must bridge the other gap. While the elites were eating this good stuff, the common person, the Cristiani, were cooking in these big wood-burning ovens. A technique which was lost when everyone moved into city apartments with shared kitchens. I haven't seen one of these ovens yet in the kitchens of Moscow, but no worries. I'm about to head south, and there, in the far-flung regions of Russia, I plan to find my big oven and a few other surprises.
I'm here southeast of Anapa in the foothills of the Caucasus Mountains. And if that sounds familiar to you white boys and white girls, it is because that's where the word Caucasian comes from. It was the creation of these Caucasus Mountains which pushed the earth up, which gave a great variety to the soil. Every 100 meters it could have a different composition. That combined with the distance from the sea and the temperament of the sky made this area ideal for producing something you wouldn't associate with Russia: wine. Although it had this old tradition, winemaking was interrupted, but not by the usual suspect. During communism, all these hills were covered with vineyards. Post-communism, the state-sponsored production went bankrupt, and the land wasn't touched for decades.
Not until recently has it resurged. To pursue that story, I come to the small town of Moldovanskia, named after Moldovans who were moved here for their wine growing tradition. Below this building is something quite special. Once an old brick quarry, now it's got much more valuable goods tucked deep below. The caretaker shows me through the catacombs' buried treasure. When Gorbachev's dry laws basically strangled the market during the last years of the USSR, everything in here suddenly froze in time, making this essentially a museum to Soviet wine history. Lots of classic wines down here, but unfortunately, you can't drink a drop. However, above ground, new winery Lefkadia not only runs a stellar restaurant, but also has plenty of bottles to uncork and enjoy.
It's good white wine.
With the edge off, I switch out my classic car for something more robust and head towards Chechnya. En route through North Ossetia, I get invited into a family house. In local style, they've prepared a feast for my crew and I as guests, with one special dish yet to be prepared.
This is some kind of pie we're making today.
Yeah, that's Ossetian pie. That's an essential thing for Ossetians. They have 12 recipes, but today we make pies of beet leaves.
Beet leaf pie.
Yeah.
We jump right into preparation, which is so simple, even I can wrap my head and hands around it.
So I make a little ball of this?
Big bowl.
A big ball. Is that big enough?
Of everything.
Everything?
Everything must be a big
ball.
The massive ball of goodness is dropped into the pie dough, and it's gently folded over until it seals completely shut.
Press?
Press.
Good? Around.
The pie might be simple, but its story is rich with detail.
As I understand, this pie has some spiritual significance. Is that correct?
Actually, yes, that's totally have spiritual significance. It's not really food. That is what you make for gods.
This is for the gods. This is the pie of the gods.
And usually people make 3 pies and serve it on the table. Always 3 pies.
For the gods, the celestial, the humanity, and then the underworld.
Yes.
Which one is this going to?
We will see.
Humanity.
The pie is then spread out. Now, I was hoping to find one of those big Russian ovens in the home, but we slide it into a modern one. Boo. The pie comes out looking perfect. Yay! The whole crew sits down with the cooks and their family. In the Ossetian tradition, the patriarch stands up to give a speech about Hurusau, the great god, their Zeus, and Uastarji, the god of travelers. And then it's my turn to speak.
As travelers who've come to your land with curiosity and respect, and as our hosts who invited us in with great hospitality, I think we honor the spirit of your great gods by coming together and creating communion.
And then the cameraman and the other crew members are compelled to share their thoughts. At the conclusion of these speeches, goblets of local beer and ram horns of moonshine are imbibed. And not just once. Over the course of dinner, the speeches continue, as does the drinking. By the end, the talk becomes more inebriated, yet heartfelt. It's really hard to convey the warmth and the beauty of this dinner ritual. I hope every one of you can one day experience Ossetian and Caucasus hospitality. My trip continues on to the capital of Chechnya, Grozny. Grozny is a beautiful city, but everything, including this magnificent mosque, is new, and the streets are oddly spacious and breezy. The last Chechen War annihilated most of the old historic town. In a feat of remarkable investment, it's been built rapidly from the ground up. In the new town's restaurants, I get a good taste for the local specialties, like corn and wheat dumplings, veal with garlic sauce, and fantastic lentil soup. What I still haven't found is my Russian oven. However, I did find something really cool in Grozny. A colorful market full of the most cheerful babushkas I have ever met. Some eager to be on camera, and some not so much. It's not the biggest market I've been to in my travels, but it definitely has the best energy. Despite rumors of danger, I felt as safe and welcome as if I was in my own grandma's house.
Urbich. It's jam made with Lenin seeds. Never tried it before. Definitely an acquired taste. A lot of people apparently don't like this. But I like it. It's like a more subtle kind of peanut butter. Oh, I think this one's made with apricots. Oh, just a notch sweeter. This is good. Пожалуйста. Спасибо.
As in most markets, there were a few intense sights to behold. No cut of meat seems to go to waste here, and even the gnarliest job is done with a smile. On my way out of Grozny, I decide to go straight through the legendary Caucasus, capped with fresh snowfall. Wow.
Look at that mountain range. The tallest one is where Zeus chained up Prometheus for the sin of giving humankind fire. Over there, the town of Magas. Beautiful.
The route quickly goes from rustic to plain rough as it wedges in a deep canyon, making its way up the mighty range. I'm glad I swapped out that old jiggly. My way is temporarily blocked, and I fear I might spend the night here. But it clears up just in time to get me back on the road, hitting the pass at the most picturesque hour. With my newly restored freedom, I head back to Moscow. As you may recall, I have a dinner invitation to attend, which all happened because I was forward enough to approach a stranger in a hallway of one of Moscow's 7 sister buildings. It turns out to be a beautiful evening of good food and conversation with genuine people. Great things happen when you reach out and connect. And speaking of great things, I've got a new lead that might bring everything full circle.
My last day in Russia and my last attempt to find this Russian oven. It's funny that I have to come to the Beverly Hills of Moscow to find the old common man's oven, but I'm not hating. If they got it, I'll be stoked.
The restaurant is Tsarskaya Ohota, or Royal Hunt, meticulously created to look like the Tsar's country home. Depictions of hunters adorn the walls, as well as the furs and heads of their kills. Although it sounds royal, it's country royal, and they might just have what I need.
Wow, look at this place. Must have cost a pretty penny. Bet I'm gonna spend a few rubles here, but if they have the oven, it's worth the splurge. If they don't, they gotta have it. Let's go see.
And there it is.
Woohoo! This is my link to the past. Before, all household activities rotated around this. It's slow cooked stuff. It was kind of like the roller coaster of cooking. Clink, 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 warming up, and then slowly cooling down over a period of 8 to 12 hours. While people slept or while they worked, they would dry their clothes on it. They'd sometimes sleep on it. They'd dry herbs around it. This is it.
The big provincial oven, largely lost in Russia's tumultuous history, is recreated almost perfectly here. But how does it cook? The energetic chef Dmitry and his staff shortly put the fiery beast to work, arranging food items on different real estate inside the oven to regulate the heat. Meanwhile, I take a seat in an opulent side room and wait for my order to arrive.
Nice. And look at this, I didn't even order this. I think it's compliments of the house. Bread basket and some parsley and vegetables. Nice touch. Here it is, the proof is in the pudding. Sturgeon, which is an old fish and an old dish, and not red wine, but black currant juice, which kind of reminds me of communion, except instead of a cracker, I have this slow-cooked oven fish. Wow, I've never had sturgeon before, but that is one good fish. I'm not sure if it's the texture of the fish or the oven, but it's got this amazing, soft, full texture. Very subtle flavors. Nothing about this traditional Russian cuisine so far punches you in the mouth, but it's this comforting, home-cooked, hearty sort of sensation. I like it. The food, combined with the atmosphere, makes you feel like you're right at home in your country estate. Like a true czar. I can get used to it. You know, I'm doing this wrong. I was just about to ask for a glass of water, and then I realized traditionally you don't drink water with the food in Russia. You drink vodka, and the two words actually sound similar. Right there is my chilled glass, which was probably traditionally chilled outside, maybe in a fridge. And there's the vodka. Infused. This one with, looks like dill and jalapeno. Yes, sir.
Seems like an odd combination, but it works. Vodka and fish. New dish, new vodka. Boar meat and buckwheat porridge. Back in the kitchen, Chef Dmitry showed me the boar meat in the jar. Cooking out of jars is a big part of local cuisine. With their long, cold winters, food storage became integral to lifestyle. Now, the jarred flavor is coveted. The food matches the environment perfectly. And the final entree is the shi, a dish which has been made in Russia since the 9th century. It's the great grandfather plate, made with a backbone of fermented cabbage, parsley, dill, and oxtail are added, downed with juniper-infused vodka.
Freaking delicious. This is the Russian food that the whole world lost for a very long time. Now, it's coming back. Exclusive access. You gotta make an effort to come here and try this, but maybe soon coming to a table near you. We'll all be lucky to have this back.
Finally, my journey has come to a satisfying end. I was able to meet today's modern, innovative Russian chefs. I encountered regular folks both in the big city and provincial regions to sit down and have family-cooked meals. I found a wine-making region springing back to life. And I got to know entrepreneurs tapping into the country's own culinary resources in a time of economic sanctions. An inconspicuous space got me a taste of communist grub. A killer meal at Dr. Zhivago linked me back to the lost cuisine of the czars. And finally, I found my Russian oven, which was the cornerstone of the common person's cooking before the revolution.
Russian cuisine has a hell of a story to tell. Wiped almost completely clean by the revolution and lost to the world for decades. It's like a skinny bear waking up from a long hibernation. But this bear has a mighty spirit and strong appetite, just like the new generation of chefs and entrepreneurs who, in a time of sanctions, have found the silver lining of resolve to reconnect to their past and innovate for the future.